Jury is present. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As always, I begin by asking you, did anybody become exposed to any information regarding the case while you were away from the courtroom? Thank you. You have been selected and sworn as a jury to try the case of State of Florida versus Othal Wallace. This is a criminal case. Mr. Wallace is charged with first-degree murder. The definition of the elements of first-degree murder will be explained to you later. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state has proved its accusations beyond a reasonable doubt against Mr. Wallace. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or the lack of evidence and the law. The indictment is not evidence, and it is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is the judge's responsibility to decide which laws apply to this case and then to explain those laws to you. It is your responsibility to decide what the facts of this case may be and then to apply the law to those facts. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined, and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it might be helpful for you to understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the lawyers will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make what is called an opening statement. The opening statement gives the lawyers a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the course of the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. After the evidence has been presented, the lawyers will have an opportunity to make what is called a final argument. Following the arguments by the lawyers, the court will then instruct you on the law which is applicable to this case. After the instructions are given to you, you will then retire to consider your verdict. Now, you should not form any definite or fixed opinion about the merits of the case until you have heard all of the evidence, the arguments of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law by the court. Until such a time, you should not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Now, during the course of the trial, the court will take recess, during which you'll be permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During this recess, you will not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, tell them that you are in the jury trying the case and ask them to stop. If they persist, leave them at once and report the matter to the bailiff, who will then advise me. Now, this case must be tried by you only upon the evidence presented during the trial, in your presence and in the presence of the defendant, the attorneys, and the court. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. Accordingly, you must not visit any of the places described in the evidence, and you must not read nor listen to any reports about this case. Further, you must not discuss this case with any person, and you must not speak with the lawyers, the witnesses, or the defendant about any subject until your deliberations are finished. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of the defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of the defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt. And the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it was made. And likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had the witness been permitted to answer the question. Now, if you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you don't want to. That will be left up to you individually. You have been provided with a notepad and a pen for your use if you wish to take notes. Any notes that you will take will be for your own personal use. However, you should not take the notes from within the courtroom. During the recess, the bailiff will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you have completed your deliberations, the bailiff will deliver your notes to me, and they will be destroyed. No one will ever get to read your notes. If you do take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should be used only as an aid to your memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. Now, let me just say something else. We have a court reporter, and she's going to be very busy throughout this trial. She's the only one I think we're going to have throughout the trial. It is much easier for you to pay close attention during the course of the trial. And if you think you didn't hear something or you're having trouble hearing the witness, raise your hand and tell me. And I'll have the volume turned up or have the witness get closer to the microphone. It's much easier to get the answer live from the witness while the witness is on the stand than from the cold record when the court reporter has to type up her notes and then read them back to you. And I do want to point out to you that that is a very cumbersome process and time consuming. So please pay close attention during the trial. As you'll see, I'll be working on my computer during the course of the trial, and I'll be taking notes myself as well, except I do them on my computer. State, you ready to proceed? All right, you may give your opening statement.
Good morning. Before I talk to you about the evidence the state will be showing you in this case, I want to start by reading a social media message that was publicly posted on the Instagram account of this defendant, Othal Wallace. And I quote, "One day I will take great pride and honor in giving me some pig's blood on my hands and boots. If you can't feel this energy, following me is not going to be healthy for you. I pray against my enemy and wish death to all those who are oppressive to the black culture. Black power." These words are not just a message that was posted by the defendant, but a promise. A promise to get pig's blood on his boots, which makes no mistake, the evidence will show you in this case means one thing: the blood of a law enforcement officer. And this post was made 16 days. 16 days prior to the defendant shooting or killing Officer Raynor in the head. You are no normal jury. Normal juries are asked to make determinations on whether or not the state has met its burden of proof by relying on multiple pieces of evidence and kind of putting the puzzle together to determine whether or not the state has enough evidence. Things like eyewitness testimony, physical evidence, DNA, fingerprints, circumstantial evidence. You won't have to do that, because all of you will bear witness yourselves to the murder of Officer Raynor. All of you will watch every single moment of this incident happen on his body-worn camera, which Officer Raynor was equipped with that night. Each and every second of the 28 seconds of his interaction with the defendant is captured on that body-worn camera. The sound of the shot, single gunshot, is captured on that body-worn camera. And before fleeing the scene, as Officer Raynor lay on the ground with a hole in his head, you're going to hear the defendant shout out, "Fuck that man," before you hear the tires of his car leaving the parking lot. And after leaving Officer Raynor alone behind these series of apartments at Daytona Beach in the dark with a hole in his head, the defendant would flee the county, flee the city, and eventually flee the state of Florida altogether within a matter of hours. He would travel to the Jacksonville area in his own car, then head down to Gainesville, where he met up with his brother, switching vehicles and getting a ride from his brother to a property just outside of Georgia, or just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And along the way, which I'll come back to later, he made another Instagram post while he was fleeing Volusia County and Daytona Beach. The defendant would be quickly apprehended and located in Georgia on a small property in Snowden. He would be found hiding in a treehouse, armed with multiple weapons, including an AK-style assault weapon with a banana clip, and including a Glock 17, the same Glock 17 that was used to murder Officer Raynor on the 23rd of June. He would be brought back to Florida. The face the charges of attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer. And the reason it was attempted is because Officer Raynor was still alive. He was at the Halifax hospital fighting for his life. Unfortunately, despite his perseverance and valiant effort, he could not overcome that gunshot wound to his head, and he died on August 17th of 2021. Thereafter, the charges were upgraded, and he was indicted for first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer. In addition to seeing the actual murder occur on the body-worn camera, the state will present you dozens of witnesses and items of evidence proving the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of first-degree murder. You will see and view portions of other body-worn cameras. Two of the colleagues of Officer Raynor who rushed to his aid when he was non-responsive on the radio. You'll see and learn from these witnesses that Officer Raynor's duty belt, a belt worn by law enforcement that contains various things, handcuffs, guns, taser, a mask, radio, was intact. The gun had not been removed, the taser had not been removed, the mask had not been removed, and the belt was still on Officer Raynor when they arrived. And you're going to learn a little bit about Axon videos, the actual system that operates the cameras. And what that system does is it actually gives a notification if a weapon is drawn. So if an officer draws his taser or his firearm, it creates it in a log, a notification that that weapon has been drawn, and then actually causes the camera to go on. Then you'll learn that there were no notifications on Officer Raynor's duty belt from Axon because he did not draw any of his weapons on the defendant. You're also going to learn that earlier in the day, along with other officers from Daytona Beach, an email was received. It went to all Daytona Beach officers. It's what's commonly referred to as a FOLA, or be on the lookout. This email was about a stolen Honda gray crossover vehicle. It went to all officers, and Officer Raynor actually talked to one of his colleagues about that stolen vehicle shortly before he was shot in the head. And that is important in this case because you will see the defendant is in a similar Honda crossover SUV, gray in color, backed into a parking spot behind this apartment complex in a dark area where Officer Raynor could not have made out the plate on the rear of the car to determine whether or not it was even a stolen vehicle, which it wasn't. You'll also learn that Othal Wallace, the defendant, would stay at those apartments at 133 Kingston. He had a girlfriend there, apartment 8. This girlfriend is the first one who identifies the defendant in the body-worn camera footage. So when law enforcement gets that body-worn camera footage, they do screenshots of the vehicle and the person, and they show it to Ms. Lewis, and she identifies the vehicle as that belonging to Othal Wallace, and she identifies Othal Wallace as the man in that vehicle. You're going to hear from investigators. You're going to hear about their efforts to locate, identify, and apprehend Othal Wallace, which included working with multiple agencies, including the ATF, the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Marshals, and the Georgia State Police were the ones who actually went onto the property and took Othal Wallace into custody. From these witnesses, you will clearly see the defendant's efforts, layered efforts, to avoid apprehension, including, as I already said, fleeing from state border, switching vehicles, going to a property in Georgia that he was very familiar with, hiding in the treehouse on that property with these weapons, discarding his cell phone before reaching that property, and even changing his physical appearance by cutting off his long hair in a matter of hours, just a day or two between the crime and his apprehension. You're going to hear from experts from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they're going to tell you about some DNA evidence. They're going to tell you about how Officer Raynor's blood was located on the rear of the defendant's vehicle after it was found in Gainesville and examined by law enforcement. They're going to tell you how the defendant's DNA, not surprisingly, on his own Glock 17 was found in his possession. And they're going to tell you, an expert in ballistics is going to tell you, that the casing, single shell casing found at the crime scene in that back parking lot, was identified as having been shot and fired from Othal Wallace's Block 17 that was found with him in the treehouse. You're also going to receive some other Instagram posts and conversations as well about some of these posts, all from the defendant's Instagram, showing the defendant's disdain towards law enforcement. And again, these posts are going to be weeks before he actually kills Officer Raynor. But as I said earlier, this case is very unique because you have the opportunity to see and hear Officer Raynor's contact with the defendant. Officer Raynor was on duty and he was working the night shift that evening. He was patrolling this area of Daytona Beach, and it's a high crime area of Daytona Beach. You can actually hear there have been some recent shootings in the area as well. You will be able to see in that video, you're going to see in that video Officer Raynor approach the gray Honda. Othal Wallace is sitting in the front driver's seat with the front door ajar. You'll see as he approaches and comes around the side of that ajar door, the defendant stand up out of the car. And you're going to see in the defendant's hand, in his left hand, a small marijuana cigarette. His phone in his right hand. And Officer Raynor shines the flashlight on Othal Wallace's hand. And you're going to see him switch the phone to his left hand to conceal that marijuana cigarette, freeing up his right hand. You're going to hear Officer Raynor being courteous and respectful to the defendant. And when the defendant gets out of the vehicle, Officer Raynor asks him again, courteously and respectfully, sit in the car. It is when Officer Raynor keys up his radio. And when I say keys up, I mean goes to call into dispatch. And he starts with his number, his assigned unit number, Charlie 77. When he keys that up, the defendant pushes him with his forearm and the camera becomes obscure. And when the camera becomes obscure, you will hear Officer Raynor tell him 4 times, stop, 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 man. And then you hear the gunshot. And the proclamation by the defendant, fuck that man. And just as important as what you will see in that video is what you do not see. You do not see Officer Raynor ever draw a weapon. Taser, axe, firearm, he doesn't do it. He never threatens the defendant. He is never aggressive towards the defendant. He is polite and courteous in asking the defendant to follow his simple instructions. But the defendant would not. After shooting Officer Raynor, as the defendant fled, leaving Officer Raynor mortally wounded, he took to, as I said earlier, he took to Instagram again. And you're going to hear from a witness who's going to talk to you about Instagram and how his posts work. One of the posts you can put on Instagram is called a story. It's almost like if you wanted to record a video, if somebody was skiing, they wanted to record a video, they could post it to their Instagram account, and you could click that video on the story and watch the video. And as I said earlier, Othal Wallace's account was not restricted, it was not private. Anybody with his username could have looked up his account and seen his posts freely. And so he took to Instagram within minutes of murdering Officer Raynor, within minutes of shooting him in the head, and bragged about keeping that promise from the earlier Instagram post. And you'll hear his voice. There's no video, but you'll hear his voice in that post. And you'll hear him proclaim to anybody who wishes to hear it, I want y'all to know something, man. I love y'all. I want y'all to know something, man. I love y'all. Black power. Stay strong as a nation. Keep fucking fighting. Move fucking forward. Don't let these pussy ass pigs fuck with you. I love y'all. Black power and shalom. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will clearly show beyond all reasonable doubt in this case that the defendant murdered Officer Jason Raynor while he was simply doing what was expected of him. to investigate crime and protect the community. And he murdered Officer Jason Raynor because he was a cop, because he was the police, because he was a law enforcement officer. But to him, Officer Raynor was just a
Thank you. Mr. Penn?
Fourth Amendment states the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, acres, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. The very last instruction Judge St. Brown was going to give you is that for more than 2 centuries we have lived by the Constitution and the law. No juror has the right to violate rules we all share. That holds true as much today as it did 2 years ago when they wrote the Constitution. These are the facts in the case. On June 23rd of 2021, Othal Wallace got up and went to work like he did every day. He finished his work about 1. He came home, spent a little time at the Kingston address, and then he went and visited his daughter. He gets back in the evening of the 23rd, he's sitting in his car, winding down before he goes inside and thinks about his girlfriend. It's at that time, Jason Raynor pulls up in front of his vehicle. As the state told you, this is all on video, with the exception of 30 seconds, but you'll learn about that on the road during the trial. 30 seconds of it was not when you So, Raynor stops in front of him, gets out, and you see that Raynor walking out of the car, Mr. Wallace then starts getting out of his vehicle. As he approaches, Raynor then says, "How's it going? You live here?" And Othal's like, "What's going on? You live here?" Now, as he does that, and he asks to say, "Now, do you live here?" You see him physically right at the door. His dad is on here. That is very close to Mr. Wallace this time. So what we have now is the car, the door, Officer Raynor, Othal Wallace. Very close proximity. "You live here?" And he's like, "Why are you asking me that? What's going on?" And at that point, he says, "Sit down, sit down, sit down," and he puts his hand out. Now we have to visualize the scene. We have the lead from the door in the car. Mr. Wallace is back into it. Raynor's in front of him with his hand on his shoulder and a hold of the door. There's no way for Mr. Wallace to go to that and leave his life. There's another car to the right. There's a fence behind him. And Raynor's car is parked in front of him. There's no escape for him. So he has his hand on his shoulder, and he says to him, "Not pig, not what are you doing?" He says, sir, what's going on?" And he's like, "Can you sit down and I'll talk to you?" At this time, he has him with both hands, one on the right shoulder, one on the left shoulder, and he's trying to push him back into the car. Mr. Wallace says, "Come on, don't do this. Why are you asking me if I live here? Do you live here, yes or no?" And he's like, "What's going on?" And at that point, he says, "Back up," and he tries to walk away. He turns and goes around the door, and as he pushes him into the door, gets by the door, you see him grab him by the back of the collar, a struggle ensues, and then you hear one gunshot. Short time later, you can hear the car drive off. All of this is on video. It takes approximately 20 seconds. You're going to then hear about Mr. Wallace's car being found in Alachua County, and then he's apprehended, taken into custody in Georgia. No violence in Georgia. Armed with his AK-47. Still no violence. Up high in the treehouse. See all the law enforcement coming up. They open up that AK-47 if you wanted to kill all these pigs. There's absolutely no violence. Instead, when the Georgia State Police officer goes up, and laying on the floor, he's going to work. No violence. We put it on very easy. These are the facts, and they're undisputed. Now, you're going to hear the state come at you with a lot of different things. One is a stolen year. There's absolutely no evidence that Raynor knew about this stolen year. We're going to try to elicit this from now Orange County Deputy Randy Dicklin and say, oh, he told me he was going to look for this single fact. But listen to how the story is changed. Also, listen to the fact that she's the second person to arrive on scene. If she had known that he was going to look for this gray colored Honda CRV, and she said something to somebody. And she said, hey, let's look for that signal 10, let's look for that stolen vehicle. She never said it. Don't you think she'd at least put it in a report? She doesn't put it in a report. It's not until 2 years later that she goes, oh, that's right. He told me he was going to look for the stolen vehicle. And since then, the story has changed. Because you'll hear that at one point she said he told her to meet after Paul and with him just before this happened. That's why it's not on the body. But when it's not on the body, then it's like, I don't know. He told me sometime, you go by shit. He also, he doesn't radio in and say, hey, I think I found this stolen vehicle. He doesn't say, hey, I'm going to look for the stolen vehicle. And he also going to find out he wasn't even in his zone. He's in a different zone. The state just told me about this marijuana cigarette. Not once will you hear Raynor say, hey, is that weed? Hey, it's not weed. Not once did they find any weed. So this whole trying to cover it up, wouldn't it have been easier for Mr. Wallace to just drop that marijuana cigarette on the floorboard of his car, stomp it out, so he didn't have it in his hand? You know, if you do find in this car are cigars. It's just about the next cigar. Or more likely. You're going to hear about these posts on Instagram. And you're going to find out senseless rhetoric based on what was going on in our country. Nothing more than that. You're going to hear about the gun being holstered. And you say you didn't pull it out. Yet, when you pull it out, but you are going to hear that it does alarm that his gun is being removed. There's the firearm alarm that goes off. You're also saying they didn't remove the taser. But you'll see the taser with the safety latch off. The safety latch is off. When it reacts on the taser, it doesn't alarm you to shoot it. So we have the safety latch off on the taser. Don't get tangled up in all this excess stuff and safety failure. This entire case comes down to that 30 seconds of video. And whether or not Officer Raynor went from what he would call a consensual encounter to a detainment for no reason at all. And whether or not you think it's reasonable that when Raynor horsepowers Othal Wallace and is trying to walk away, if he would have been in fear, as a reasonable person would, and whether or not he had the right to defend himself. That's what this case is about, nothing else. And because of that, he's not likely to
Yes, I wish to move to.
Yes, sir.
Are there any witnesses present?
Yes, Your Honor.
May I have a witness on the call?
Yes.
If each of you will raise your hand and be so please.
You swear to the truth and proceedings you will conduct.
Okay, I'm going to ask each of your names that are very quickly here. Your name? So your last name?
L-A-M-A-G-N-A.
Last name?
Asma?
Is someone's bone?
Yes, that's on
I'm sorry.
Amanda.
So your last name?
B-I-C-K. Yeah.
The rule of procedure has been revoked to require that you remain outside of the courtroom while the testimony is being delivered in the courtroom. Obviously, you can talk to each other about anything you like, with one exception. You may not speak about this case with anyone while the trial is involved. You can't tell anybody what questions were asked in the courtroom, what answers you gave, what fears of the case you may have. And that's good for the trial. Now, the only exception to that rule is that you may speak with the lawyers, individually, not collectively as a group, about any questions that you may have about your testimony. You understand? Right, you may wait outside. Oh, by the way, the viewers are wearing viewer badges. If for whatever reason you find yourself in the same space as the viewers, you need to walk away from the viewer, wherever that may be. Thank you. You may step outside. Please make all your first witness.
Yes, sir. The statement called Deputy Amanda Jennings.
Witnesses will be brought.
Everything good?
Let's see.
Thank you, good.
There's a problem with sound. Either move your microphone closer to the podium. Actually, I prefer you not be on that side if you can get farther away from the viewers. Either in the middle there or close to the main podium, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
No, we can see it from this up, right?
Okay.
So we just, is that better?
Let's see if we can push it back.
Proceed. Proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
If you can introduce yourself to the jury, spell your last name, please.
Amanda Dickens, last name Dickeens.
What do you do for a living, ma'am?
I work in the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
What's your job there?
Patrol deputy.
How long have you been with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately a year and a half.
Prior to working with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, did you work for any other law enforcement agency?
Yes, I work for the city of Daytona Beach.
Why did you leave Daytona to go work with Orange County?
Just better money opportunity. It's closer to my house. What do you do?
Do you want to tell the jury, if you could, about your training that you received to become a law enforcement officer, please?
Yeah.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Yes, sir. So I went to academy. It was 700 plus hours, plus in-house training at the city of Daytona Beach Police Department. I went through an FTO program before being released. And when I went to Orange County, I went through the same thing. Went through their in-house and FTO program all over again.
And I know what an FTO program is, but can you tell the jury what that means?
Field training. So basically on-the-job training.
Is that under the supervision of a senior officer?
Yes.
To provide you guidance?
Yes, it is.
And that person rides with you and you guys, they follow you for several months in the same car?
Yes, they do. They grade you on your performances of the day. Yes.
Let me bring your attention now to, would have been June 23rd, 2021. Were you working that day, ma'am?
Yes, it was.
What capacity were you working in?
Patrol.
What shift were you working back then?
I was working Charlie East, so the midnight squad.
Can you tell the jurors what time the midnight squad would work if there was two different shifts?
There was a single shift, but it was split in two, so we'd have cars come and work 4 to 4, and then the second half of cars would come in and work 6 to 6.
So 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Did you know Officer Jason Raynor?
Yes, sir.
How did you know him?
We met in-house at Daytona Beach. We went through in-house academy, or in-house training, and then we ended up on the same shift.
So he was on the midnight shift with you?
Yes, he was.
And obviously on the midnight shift, it could either be 4 to 4 or 6 to 6?
Yes.
Tell me about the normal procedure once you would get on shift for the day. What would you do to brief up and get ready for the day?
My normal day started with my emails, making sure that I understood what was happening either the night before or during the day. So bolos, taskings, stuff that needs to be fixed, evidence, subpoenas, and then we'd go for briefing.
Did you, through the emails, what kind of information would you get?
Stolen vehicles, missing persons, suspects in robberies and other crimes. Attempt to identify who got out with somebody that matched who they got out with or who they think the suspect is.
Did you, as a law enforcement officer, upon receiving these emails, would you utilize them in your daily function in order to determine, investigative leads or what you might be needing?
Yes, absolutely.
You yourself on that June 23rd date in 2021, you came on at 6 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
Upon coming on that evening, did you have any, did you review your emails that day?
Yes, I did.
Just can we come sign off for a moment?
All rise and adjourn. Receive your honor. Ladies, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, if I can pick up, when you check your emails on June 23rd when you came on shift, did you receive an email in reference to any stolen vehicle?
Yes.
Can I approach the witness, Judge? I'm going to approach and show you what's marked for state's identification as G. Please take a moment and look at that. Okay. It states G, the email that you received in reference to that stolen vehicle.
Yes.
Did you read that yourself when you got on shift that day?
Yes, I did.
Let's talk about Daytona a little bit and how it's set up. I'm going to approach you and show you what's marked as Stage A. Judge, I believe there's no objection from the defense on Stage A, so we move it into Stage 1.
Is it impossible?
It's a composite.
How many pictures?
4.
Okay, without objection, the evidence will be, the item will be admitted as evidence, you mark it as evidence. Whenever you hear me say the words, it's admitted as evidence, that means it becomes part of this case that you will have when you deliberate, okay? You may or may not be able to see it at this time, depending upon the parties and when they want to show the evidence. Once I say it is admitted as evidence, it is your evidence. Let me proceed.
Thank you, Judge. May I have the witness step down?
Yes. And make sure you keep your voice up, though.
And I'm going to show you what is marked as 1A, which is in evidence. If you can take this pointer, if you can stand to the side of there. Can you just describe what area we're looking at here, maybe identify some landmarks and explain to the jury what area we're looking at?
Sure. This is the city of Daytona Beach. Talk really loud.
It's gonna be City of Daytona Beach, so this is gonna be A1A, your main route of International Speedway Boulevard, you have Daytona Speedway, you have the airport behind it. It's gonna be US 1, otherwise known as Ridgewood. Tanger outlets.
And I see here on the map, it's marked 133 Kingston Avenue. Is that eventually the location you had to go to with Officer Raynor that evening?
Yes, sir.
You can just stay up there for one moment, ma'am. I'm going to show you what's marked as 1B. It's just a little bit closer. Just to identify the landmarks again and the locations there.
So the Speedway's still here. This is still International Speedway Boulevard, still A1A, Beach Street. You have Jackie Robinson Stadium, and just north of it is.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll just have you stay up there for one more moment. And eventually we'll get to 133 Kingston Avenue. Is this a close-up of that area?
Yes, sir.
Can you just tell us what roads kind of work to frame it?
The main road's gonna be North Beach Street. You're gonna have the jurisdiction line of Basin Avenue, Holly Hill. The parallel to Beach Street's gonna be Ridgewood.
Okay, and I'll have you come down later and explain some other stuff later. Actually, if you can stay here. If you can, I'm sorry, can you tell us what zone you were working that evening?
Zone 56.
And
Zone 56.
can you describe to the jury and show them what zone 56 would encompass on the map here, if you can?
Yeah, so it's gonna be everything west of the river, east of the railroad tracks. Right there. And then, south of Mason, which I pointed out earlier, and is, or north of Mason, south of Mason, north of Mary McLeod Lagoon.
So just for us, because we don't know any of these roads, can you just like draw?
Yeah, it's just, it's this little area right here, a little box.
Now, Officer Raynor, what zone was he working that evening?
He was working 57.
Can you tell us where that is, ma'am?
So that's gonna be the same east and western points, but it's gonna be from Mary McLeod Lagoon down to Orange Avenue. So,
Orange, what?
it's Mary McLeod Bethune, MMB, down to Orange.
Now, ma'am, just because you're assigned to 56 and he's assigned to 57, does that restrict you to your zone throughout the day?
No,
Can you explain to the members of the jury how that works and when one might go outside their zone?
so you would go outside of your area of responsibility regarding the proactivity, to back up another officer, to do traffic stops, anything that, you could go anywhere on that side. The only thing that you're really responsible for is the reports in your zone. But you could go do proactivity or whatever you want it, all the other ones.
Thank you, ma'am. I can have you sit down now. Thank you. Now, once you got on shift that evening, did you have a conversation with Officer Raynor in reference to that email?
I did.
Can you describe, do you remember where that conversation took place or how?
I know it happens between coming on shift at 6 and the last call before the incident. So somewhere's in that time period, either verbal or via phone call.
Did you previously indicate that it was at a call at the American Inn?
I did, however, it's been a couple of years. It was traumatic. It took me a month and a half to get back to work. So after some reflecting on when it happened, I know it happened in between 6 p.m. and when the incident happened. I just don't recall where exactly.
What was the conversation? What did Officer Raynor tell you?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Based on
Go ahead and answer, ma'am.
The conversation was asking, Officer Raynor asked if I had seen the bolo or be on the lookout for the signal 10. The signal 10 is a stolen vehicle.
So
The
let's
code.
slow down for everybody here. So he asked you about a bolo.
He asked if I had seen the bolo in the email. Bolo is a be on the lookout.
What in law enforcement speak, what does be on the lookout mean? What does it mean for you?
It's just like a notice of either there's a stolen vehicle, suspect of some sort, stolen tag. It's just a, hey, this happened, it's in your area, look out for it if you see it, you know.
And then you had mentioned signal 10. What is the signal 10 used for? And
It's a 10 code for stolen vehicle.
so just so we all understand, like if you were to go over the radio and you would say signal 10, that means a stolen vehicle. So when y'all communicate with each other, do you use, I guess, officer speak or radio talk?
Yeah, it's a mixture of like plain talk and codes, just depending on what's easier to get out.
Now that we understand the codes, can you tell us what exactly he told you?
Yeah, he asked me if I had seen the bolo. He said that it had hit our license plate readers, our LPR system, which is basically a fancy camera that just takes pictures of your license plates and it sets them in a system. And if that certain plate has been listed into the national database or the state database as stolen or missing, it'll alert and say, hey, that car, vehicle, plate is in your area. So he had said that the vehicle was in our area and he wanted to go look for it at some point during our shift.
So, and based on your conversation, you understood him referring to that email in reference to the Honda?
Yes.
Now, around what time do you go out for lunch? When I say out, can you explain to the jury what that means? And do you sort of take lunch? Or I say lunch at dinner.
My scheduled dinner was around 8 o'clock.
What did you do for your dinner that night?
I did not have dinner because I was asked to assist Officer Erlinson and Officer Raynor with a email search for an arrest that they were making.
After you assisted them, was that at the American Inn?
Yes, it was.
After you assisted them, what did you do at that point?
I was sitting driver door to driver door with Officer Erlinson while I was attempting to eat my dinner in my car.
Do you mind stepping down? We have one to step down. Yes. Can you show us where the American Inn is located on the map down area? Might be a little off the map, but if you can show us.
It should be right here.
Okay. So it's south of the Kingston Avenue.
Yeah, it's south.
Okay, you can sit back there. Thank you. While you were talking to Officer Erlinson, did something cause you to change your course of conduct where you had to I guess, spring into action or try to do something?
Yes. Officer Raynor came across the radio and he said 3 Charlie 77, which is our call signs. We have assigned call signs.
So if we can slow that down. So for example, if I was a police officer, I could have Charlie 56. Someone else could be Charlie, I'm just making up numbers.
Yeah.
But that's his call sign, so when the I guess the operator or the CAD operator knows, they know who it is.
Yeah, it's an identifier, yes.
When you hear Charlie 77, is there anything that usually comes after that?
Yes, usually you hear dispatch reply with go ahead, like go ahead with your transmission. And then there's nothing.
Would in a normal situation, an officer respond after dispatch asked them to go with their?
Yes.
Did you hear any response after the dispatch asked go ahead?
No, there was no response. Dispatch called for him several times.
Why did that cause you to have concern, and then what did you do in reaction to that?
Due to my experience, that usually means the officer is in trouble and can't get to the radio to transmit, or they're fighting somebody. So something is preventing them from getting to their radio.
What did you do when you were at the American Inn? Where did you go to?
I got out of the parking lot of American Inn. I made a right-hand turn northbound on Ridgewood, and I just started driving in that direction.
May I have the witness step down one more?
Yes.
Thank you. Don't forget to talk really loud.
Yes.
Thank you. So if you could just indicate where you started driving, and did Officer Erlinson leave the parking lot with you?
He left with me, but I was facing Ridgewood, and he was facing the hotel, because we were driver door to driver door. So he had to make a U-turn to come out after me.
Okay.
So we made the northbound turn out to Ridgewood, and as we were driving towards that area, we were getting updates on Officer Raynor's location.
Were you able to look up Officer Raynor's location yourself?
I did pull it up on our maps, and I saw that he was up in my zone, north, and I knew the general area. I just didn't know the street because it was blown out. So like you could just tell I had to go north. I didn't know where north, but I knew north.
And if we could back up a moment, when you were at the American Inn down here, that's outside of your zone, right? Because you were assisting.
I was in zone 58, yes.
Okay, but that would be common to rotate zones to help.
Yes, I was called there to assist with the search stuff, yes.
So if you can just tell us, you're driving Ridgewood, and if you can let us know,
Let me step back a little bit so the viewers can't see your
Oh, I'm
view.
sorry.
Yeah, step to the side so they can see.
tell us
What I can ask,
Yes, sir.
the same question you asked before.
Yes, sir.
You said she was driving from what?
Yes, you're driving from the American Inn north, and was it on Ridgewood here?
Yes, it was.
This being States 1C, is this Ridgewood right there?
Yes, it is.
Tell us what road you turned on, and how did you know what road to turn on?
Dispatch advised us that his GPS was coming off of Kingston, and also Sergeant Services, my sergeant at the time, had pulled up his GPS off of his body cam. And he was coming up in this area.
What did you do from Ridgewood? You could show us your path of travel.
Absolutely. So I made a right-hand turn onto Kingston. It being close to 8:30 at night, it was dark, so you couldn't see much. Parked right here was a big yellow Husky truck with a moving truck, so I could not see Officer Raynor's car or any indicators of where he was. So I made a U-turn at Beach Street, and by the time I turned around to come back, Officer Erlinson had found him and was calling out all the necessary information on the radio. That we had an officer down with a gunshot wound, and that he needed units.
When you turned around and proceeded back, can you point to the jury where you parked your vehicle and where you went to?
Yes. So I parked my vehicle here at an angle, and I had to run in between the buildings, and Officer.
I'm going to show you what is 1D. It's a blow up of the 133 Kingston Avenue, and then right next door to the 115.
Yes, sir.
So just illustrate on here, it's a little bit closer to where you parked.
Yes. So I parked right here because the Husky truck was parked in the way right here. I ran across here behind the buildings, and Officer Erlinson and Officer Raynor were over here, and Officer Raynor's car was here.
Just so we're clear with the jury, it was in the back of this parking lot behind 133 Kingston where you located that?
Yeah, it was right here against the fence.
Did you have a body camera on that day?
I did.
Now, I know this is a little embarrassing. When you first get out of your car, do you pull your gun out?
I did pull my gun out, yes.
Why did you do that, ma'am?
Because Officer Erlinson had advised that one of our officers was shot, and I didn't know if the shooter was still in the area.
As you jump out and you're running, do you, we'll see it on video, do you trip over something?
I do. There's a concrete barrier right here between these two apartments, and it was dark.
When you get to Officer Raynor, Officer Erlinson, describe what you observe happening back there and what the scene is like.
The scene's chaotic. There's a bunch of civilians around. Officer Erlinson is asking me to get something to stop the bleeding. When I yelled in the general public for a towel, I think some bystander had given their shirt off their back to stop the bleeding. When I got up to Officer Raynor. He was shot in the head, and his left eye was completely out and hanging, and he was bleeding profusely.
What did you do?
I grabbed his hand and began to hold pressure on his head the best I could. Officer Erlinson was still trying to get out radio traffic, so I ended up turning my radio off so that it wouldn't mess up the traffic to squelch each other if you're too close.
Was the paramedics or firefighters or EMTs there yet?
No. No, they were not.
How long did it take them about to arrive? Do you know?
What felt like hours, I think probably 10, 15 minutes.
Officer Erlinson and Officer Raynor were located here. Is this where Officer Raynor's vehicle was that we were talking about?
Yeah, it was parked facing east, like this.
Was Officer Raynor conscious and alert when you arrived back there?
He was awake and conscious. I was trying to speak to him and let him know it was going to be okay and to hang on.
Was he able to communicate and talk to you a little bit?
He was trying to give us some information about who he was out with. I was trying to get his phone password so I could access his Axon app and look into his body camera to see who he got out with.
So if we can just explain that to the jury. As a law enforcement officer with Daytona Beach, on your cell phones,
Yes.
would you have access to watch back what was happening on Axon or on your
Yes.
body camera?
Yes, there's an app and it will collect all of your videos that you recorded that day, or at least until you dock it again, or it uploads into Axon's cloud, I guess. So we do have an app, you log in, which his would have automatically opened with his face, or a passcode to his phone, but I couldn't get a passcode.
So when you first get there, you're unable to see the Axon of who he interacted with?
I didn't get access.
You can sit back there. I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes. Tell us, in the time between evac arriving and you're there, are you just comforting Officer Raynor at the time?
I was comforting him up until Officer Jackson arrived, and then we ended up taking his uniform off and checking for other injuries. And then after we checked for other injuries and loaded him into the ambulance, Officer Jackson had taken his duty belt and walked over to his patrol car, where I had opened the trunk and we secured his duty belt in the trunk.
Did you have an opportunity to make observations of his duty belt?
Yes, I did.
Can you explain to the jury what kind of equipment when you were at Daytona Beach you would have on your utility belt?
Yes, so you will have your firearm, your taser, your collapsible baton, your pepper spray, your handcuffs, and then your extra magazines, ammunition.
When you observed, were you present when Officer Raynor utility belt was taken off?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you able to make observations of it?
Yes, I was.
Did his gun, was it still in the holstered in?
Yes, it was. Still in the holster.
Can you explain to the jury how you as a law enforcement officer at Daytona Beach would have had to, what you would have done to be able to get your gun out of your holster?
Yes, so the holsters issued at Daytona Beach. There's a two-step process to remove the gun from the holster. There's a strap that goes over the top that has to be pushed forward, And there's another button just underneath of it that has to be locked back in order to disengage the firearm from the holster.
And the firearm was still in the holster, without anything?
The firearm was still in the holster and the first stage was still up.
What about his last full baton? Was that located still in his utility belt, folded up?
It was still in its holster behind his duty weapon.
Did you have an opportunity to see his, I guess, stun gun or taser, whatever the name might be?
Yes, his taser was still holstered as well.
Were you wearing a body camera that day?
Yes, I was.
Approach the witness, Judge. I'm going to approach and show you what's marked as stage P. You can take a moment and look at that. See if you can recognize it.
Yes, it's my body camera.
How do you recognize that one?
Because I signed it.
Okay. So you view this
I
as,
believe it's signed it, yes.
is this a fair and accurate depiction of parts of your body camera that evening?
Yes, it is.
Judge, this time the state movement states C.
Any objection? No, no objection, I'll get the witness evidence.
Judge, may I publish states 2 to the jury? Thank you, sir.
Is she going to comment on it as
I don't think so, Judge. I'll watch through it and then I'll ask if there's any questions or I'll follow up questions.
to
Come to the location. We have an officer down. Yeah, officer down. He's shot.
Somebody shot a cop in the ground.
Something to hold pressure, man.
Give me a towel! Give me a towel! Give me a towel!
Hey, how you got it? You got my shirt. You got a shirt. You got a shirt. You got a shirt. Hey, tell me to cover his face up. God damn. Oh, man.
Give me a towel! They're not here! Get rescue in here!
Get rescue here now. You're gonna be alright, buddy. Hang on. You're gonna be alright, bud. Hey, where's he at? Can you tell me anything?
Hang on, Jason!
Just hang on, bud.
Hang on, bud!
Hang on. Hang on.
Hang on, bud! Who saw
Who
it?
saw it? Just hang back.
Oh, man.
5 cents over red. No suspect there, bro.
Do your radio. I turn mine off.
Yeah. They're coming, man. Just hang on.
Hang on, man! Hang on! Come on,
Hang on,
Jason!
brother. Hang on.
Hang on, Jason! Hang on, buddy!
Yeah, you're
Hang on, buddy!
hang on.
Hang on, buddy! Hang on, bud!
I'm here.
Hang on!
Just hang on.
Just hang on.
To me. Keep talking to me, man.
Wave me back in! Wave the
Get the
ambulance!
fucking ambulance. Get
Get
him
the
back
ambulance! Just
here.
get the ambulance! We're fine! Go get the ambulance!
Go.
Go!
You're gonna be alright, man.
Go, go. I got AIDS. Yeah.
Shut up!
Don't do it.
Where is he? What's he wearing? Can you tell me anything?
Who is it, Jason?
Can you tell me anything, brother? Was he in a car? Was he just standing?
Judge, it's gonna, because it's stopped in this, I'm gonna find the spot and put it right there. Yes, sir.
Hang on.
Just hang on.
Just hang on. Hey, come on, man.
Come on. You gotta eat again. Just one. Just one? Just one. Just one. It's in his head.
It's in his head.
Okay. Okay, you're talking, buddy. You're talking. Where the fuck what happened? Right here. We don't know.
Hang on, buddy. Hang on, buddy.
Where's he at? Move. Jason. Hey, I'm here, buddy. I'm here. Okay? You go in the second. I got you, buddy. Don't.
Hang on, Jay.
Where the fuck is Eve at?
Hang on, Jay.
Just hang on.
Hang on, Jason.
Try to give me everything you can. Jason, what happened? Who was it? Who did it? I don't know. Take this. Put this in your pocket now. Huh? Jason, who is it, buddy? Jason? It's okay, buddy.
He doesn't know. It's just one guy.
I got you, buddy. Okay? It's okay, buddy. Just relax. I got you. We got you. Jason. We got you. I got you, buddy, okay? Give me the light. Wait. Wait, buddy. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, okay, buddy? It's there. No. You see who he's chasing? No. You got it? Wait, good man. Yeah. Hey, talk to me, buddy.
Talk to us, Jay.
Hey.
It might. Hang tight, buddy.
What are we doing here? Grab his phone. Grab his phone.
It's in his car.
They activating this.
You put in the record the time in which you did your stop.
Stops at 6, it's June 23rd, 2021 at 20:58:59.
All rise, jury. All rise, jury. President, you may be seated.
Thank you, Judge. Can I approach the witness? I'm going to approach and show you what is marked as state C for identification purposes. Can you take a look at those two programs? What are those photographs of? Screenshots?
These are screenshots from my body camera. Depicts Officer Jason's duty.
We'll talk about it, but there's screenshots. Are they a fair and accurate depiction of what's on your body camera?
Yes, it is.
Anything needs to be changed or altered up?
No.
This time, Judge, take a bit of mistakes. stand off to the side, talk really loud. If we're looking at 3A right now, can you point out specifically to talk about Officer Raynor's duty belt? Can you point out his gun and the strap, what you're talking about would have to occur?
Yes, as I was explaining earlier, two-point system. As you see, the strap is still above the top of the gun because it has not been disengaged yet. And then his collapsible baton is still behind it.
Is where the collapsible baton in the appropriate location?
Yes.
Where it's the location?
Yes, it's where you are, yes.
And the strap and the way the gun is situated there, that means that it wasn't disengaged. There was no effort to try and take the gun out. Is that correct?
No, sir.
And the taser we can't see in this photo. Is it usually on the other side?
Yes, it should be right behind his left hand on the other side of section magazines.
Okay. And I'm showing you now what is 3B. It's even a better close-up of the firearm, And is this the strap we're talking about still engaged?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the location of where the baton is?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Sit down. Thank you. Yeah. Judge, if I may publish this second portion of the body camera, it's just a small portion of, for the. And, Deputy, is this after the paramedics have arrived, where you were talking about earlier, receiving the gun bell or locking it in the trunk?
Yes, sir. It's running, they're in it. It's running, they're in it. I don't think it's a spare car.
Pop it or unlock it. Let's turn it off. Sorry.
Down it off, so we need back to get out of here, right?
Your key is yours.
Were you given responsibility to keep custody of the gun vault until you turned it over to evidence custodian or the crime scene unit?
Yes, I was.
Did you take custody and lock that in the trunk and hold on to that until you did?
Yes, I did.
Did you change or alter anything about it?
No, I did not.
Yeah, one moment, Judge.
Yes.
The location where this occurred and where Officer Raynor was located when you arrived, is that in Volusia County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
The Daytona Beach is located in Volusia County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
No further questions, Judge.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Terry, do you need the screen or do you want us to move it? Okay. Yes, sir.
Morning. How long have you known Jason Raynor?
I've known him the entire 9 years I was there when he shot.
And would you say I saw your relationship as friends?
Shift mates, friends, yes.
Alright. As far as the conversation you had with Jason Raynor about the city of 10, I mean, you already testified to it. Originally, you stated that that conversation took place at a trespass call where you came to search the person that was arrested, right?
Yes, I did.
All right. And at some point, did you find out that that never happened at that location?
I had time to reflect on my answer. I knew that the conversation had happened. However, it being over 2 years ago now, switching agencies, I knew the conversation happened. I was just mistaken on when. I just know it happened between 6 p.m. and before the incident.
At the time that you stated it happened at the trespass incident, you were very certain that that's where it took place, though, weren't you?
I was, but again, this is traumatic. It's been some time now.
And so that would have been totally wrong. You didn't hear it then, but you don't know when you heard it.
I know I heard it between coming on shift and before the incident.
You don't know how you heard it, do you? You don't know if he told you in person or if he told you over the phone. You think that's what you testified to?
Yes. We communicated all day by phone and in person. So it wasn't like we had one conversation that day. We have multiple all day long.
And today you testified with rather certainty that, he told me about the LPR and he was going to go look for this car and he was going to find it. You were very certain about the words that he used, weren't you?
Yes.
But back when you took your deposition, you weren't quite so certain, were you?
I don't understand the question.
Well, today you're like, he told me X, he told me Y, he told me Z, and I know that's why he went to that location, because that's what he was looking for, that's what he told me. But previously, you haven't testified as to that, have you? Show you the deposition.
What page am I on?
I'm going to June 12th, page 14.
Yeah.
And if you could read 2023, I'm sorry. June 12th, 2023, page 14. And I want you to read from line 7, read this to yourself, line 7 to the end of line 14. Read that to yourself. I'm sorry, line 12 to line 14.
Yes, sir.
And on that day, you said, and you were under oath that day, right?
Yes, sir.
So to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
And on that day, you said, he had said, I can't tell the exact words. He just said, I'm going to go look for something to do. I think there's a signal 10, a fresh signal 10 out. Is that what you said on that day?
What I said, yes.
Okay. But today, you're like, he told me there was an LPR in this area. I'm going to go find it. How come your memory's so much better now?
I've had time to reflect on that day to prepare for this trial. Like I said, it was traumatic. This is the first time going over it.
It's a deposition. That was the first time you've gone over it.
Yes.
You didn't review anything for your deposition?
So I changed agencies, and I did not have access to my body cam or anything else prior to that. I have not been at Daytona Beach in a year and a half.
Now, after you did the pat down and search of the female at the trespass American Inn, you then stayed there to have your lunch, I guess?
Yes, but attempted to, yes.
You were there with Officer Erlandson?
Erlandson, yes.
And then at some time, you heard the call from Jason Raynor come over the radio and there's no response.
Yes.
Now, I know that you said it's typical to go into different zones, but wouldn't it be best practice to, if you're going into a different zone, leaving your zone to let somebody know that you're doing that?
It's not always practical. I mean, you'd be on the radio 24/7 telling everybody what street you're on. You have GPS, multiple.
But wouldn't you want somebody to know you're not in your area and taking care of business in your zone?
That's not normally communicated.
All right. And if Well, as you're driving up to the scene when you take off to go to 133 Kingston, you can't see down into the parking lot of that apartment complex due to that big yellow Penske truck, right?
Are you talking about,
You missed the driveway because of that Penske truck there. You had to go up and do a U-turn, right?
yeah, I missed where his patrol car was because it was behind that truck.
So you couldn't see down in there because of that truck.
Yes.
Okay. So you go up, you have to do a U-turn, you come back down, and then you get out and you run down. Right? Now, if Jason Raynor had thought that if you were looking for a single thing, which is a stolen vehicle, and that is a high-level crime, would you say?
Yes.
Wouldn't you radio in before you made contact with the individual that was sitting in the vehicle?
Not until I can confirm it.
So you'll go up and make contact with a possible felon before you let anybody know that you are putting yourself in a dangerous situation.
Every day. It happens every day. We don't know who we're getting out with or talking to.
But at this point, you're saying that he knew it was a stolen vehicle.
Could not be confirmed. So the car was backed in. You couldn't check the license plate to confirm it. So until it's confirmed, you don't know what you have.
Well, the vehicle that was in the email was a CRV, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, I thought it had that. Okay, so it was a CRV. The one on the Bolo was a CRV, right?
It was a gray Honda SUV, yes.
And the one that was in the parking lot ended up being an HRV, correct?
A gray Honda SUV.
Different models, correct? Different shapes, correct?
Different model, yes. Same color, same make.
Different models. Alright, so he pulls down in, he gets out, doesn't radio anybody, you don't hear any radio from him, and he makes contact without letting anybody know he's doing it, correct?
Yes.
Alright. And then he ends up, the incident happens, and then you take off to get to the scene. Now, when you arrive on scene, Burlinson is sitting there meeting you, and he's asking questions about what's going on, what happened, who is it, right?
Yes.
I think you maybe even asked a couple questions about what did you see, who was it, right?
Yes.
Burlinson at one point says, what kind of car was it, doesn't it? It was just on the video.
I think so, yes.
Okay. You didn't think at that point to say, wow, maybe it's that gray Honda CRV that he was going to look for that he just told me about. You didn't think to say that?
No, because my friend's eye was hanging out of his head. I was concerned for his health and wellness.
You weren't concerned about finding the person who did it?
I had one task at hand, and that was taking care of him at the particular moment in time.
Okay, so later on, when the detectives arrive and Jason Raynor is no longer on the scene and things have calmed down a little, do you go up and say, hey, he was looking for that Honda CRV, that gray Honda CRV. Did you tell anybody that?
No, I was instructed to return to the station with the rest of my shift and wait to be briefed by the supervisors. I did not have any involvement with the detectives.
So because you're instructed to go back, you can't take 2 seconds and say, he told me he was looking for this gray Honda CRV. Let's look for that. You can't say that?
I didn't talk to them. I was instructed to go back.
You didn't relay that information to anybody, did you?
No, I did not. I wasn't part of the investigation afterwards.
Do you think that that could have been some vital information in the initial minutes when this first happened?
If that's what I was focusing on, then yes, but it was not what I was focusing on.
Okay, well then later on, you never wrote a report here, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. So later on, when they're trying to find the person that's involved in this, do you ever say, after you had time to reflect, hey, they were looking, he was going to look for this Honda CRV?
I took time of leave. So since that incident, I was not at work for a month and a half.
So the answer is you never told anybody ever about this, did you?
I did not, no.
And the first time it ever came up was on June 12th of 2023. That's the first time you stated ever to anybody about him going to look for this car.
Yes, that's the only time I stated it. However, that night, that vehicle was located afterwards.
Your Honor, this time, I hate to do it because we just took a break, but we wanted to authenticate something right now through Deputy Dickens so that we didn't have to call her back. We're just going to show it to her on our computer. It's her body worn camera from previously. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't understand what
What time was that, Mr.?
That's at 8:15:43. No, I don't have anything else for this time.
What you show her is not an ID.
Not yet, no. Well, we'll ID it. We're just authenticating it, but I can ID it.
What is it?
It's the body worn camera.
Hers?
Yes. The body worn camera from the staff.
What's the date for it?
June 23rd.
And what was it exact time?
Is this not a CD somewhere where we can actually be authenticated more?
We have it on a zip drive.
Can we put that mark in
Yeah.
as
Is
whatever?
that the only thing that's on?
All right, so it'd be, the time should read 2015-0043. That's correct?
2015-4.
Well, that's not right. Anything else?
No, I said,
Okay, stay, incorrect.
Real briefly, Judge. After this incident, up till the moment when you gave your deposition, did anyone tell you what to say in reference to a stolen vehicle?
No,
Did anyone tell you, hey, come in here, say that Officer Raynor said this?
no,
Did you even have any communication with anyone really about the case?
no, I did not.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else?
no, no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, she's excused from the stand.
Excuse me. Subject to recall. Oh, subject to recall. Okay, you need to keep in contact with the attorney. Okay. You're still on this lead. Okay, please call your next witness.
Steve, call Timothy Jackson.
It's a little bit warm in here. Just found out that they turned the AC off from the weekend. The AC may be a little bit taxed. Mr. Your Honor, you may proceed to witness as sworn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Could you please state your entire name and spell it before seated in front of you, please?
Officer Timothy Jackson, Timothy, last name Jackson. Sir.
Sir, where are you employed?
Daytona Beach Police Department.
And what do you do for Daytona Beach Police Department?
I'm a canine officer.
How long have you been with the Daytona Beach Police Department, sir?
Almost 10 years full time.
Any prior law enforcement experience before you got to Daytona Beach?
No, sir.
Any military experience?
No, sir.
Can you just briefly tell the jury about your experience as a law enforcement officer over those 10 years, what different positions you had in the agency?
Patrol, bicycle unit, and canine unit.
You said you're presently assigned to the P9 unit?
Yes, sir.
Was that your assignment back in June of 2021?
Yes.
Did you work with Officer Raynor?
Yes.
Were you working the night of June 23rd of 2021?
Yes.
What hours were you working that night?
My shift is 8 p.m. to 5 a.m.
And are you assigned to a particular portion of the city?
No, sir.
Is that because you're a P9 officer?
Yes, sir. We're citywide.
Okay, so you could be needed anywhere with that P9.
Yes, sir.
All right. Prior to Officer Raynor being shot that evening, did you see him?
No, sir.
Where were you before you responded after you got the call to go to 133?
I was on beachside.
Beachside? How far from 133 Kingston is that?
A couple miles.
I should ask, or did you respond to 133 Kingston that night?
Yes, sir.
How long do you think it took you to drive over there from Beachside?
Less than 5 minutes.
Are you familiar with this apartment complex at 133 Kingston Avenue in Daytona Beach?
Yes, sir.
Can you just describe the building to the jury generally?
It's a 2-story multi-apartment complex building.
And where's the parking for that apartment complex?
There's parking in the rear.
The parking lot is behind the complex?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see that parking lot or into that parking lot from the roadway?
No, sir. Just the access point.
No, sir.
No, sir.
In Kingston Ave, what direction does that road run?
Runs east and west.
West? Are there entrances to go back to that lot on both the east and west side of the building?
I believe so, yes, sir.
When you arrived at 133 Kingston, were you able to find Officer Raynor?
Yes, I was.
And where was he?
In the back of the parking lot against the fence line
Where was the vehicle?
on the east side of the parking lot.
Can you describe your observations of Officer Raynor when you arrived found behind the building?
Officer Raynor is on the ground with a severe head injury.
Was he conscious?
Yes, sir.
Were you the first officer there, or the other ones already got you by the time you arrived?
Other officers were already on scene.
Did you make efforts to assist those officers medically with Officer Raynor?
Yes, sir.
Were you present when the actual medical personnel arrived in the EMS?
Yes.
Were you able to see Officer Raynor's duty belt when you were attending to him or assisting with him medically?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to see his firearm? Were you able to see his taser?
Yes.
Were these items in or not in his duty belt?
And the duty belt.
What kind of items do you have on a duty belt?
Taser, gun, magazines, handcuffs, OC spray, radio.
Does the duty belt have a holster for the firearm?
Yes, sir.
Does it have a holster for the taser?
Yes.
Were both those items holstered when you saw Officer Raynor's duty belt?
Yes, sir.
My first witness, Your Honor. So I'm showing you just for identification. 2 photographs from State's Exhibit T. Were you the officer that actually collected Jason Raynor's duty belt and took it from his person?
Yes, I was.
What did you do with that duty belt?
I took the duty belt and placed it in his trunk of his patrol car.
And was that patrol car locked after you placed the duty belt in that?
Yes, I had handed the keys off to another officer afterwards.
Was that officer taken?
I don't remember exactly.
I'm showing you the second, third, and fourth photograph of State's composite T. Just look at those 3 photographs, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Standard issue duty belt.
Is that Officer Raynor's duty belt in the back of the patrol car after you placed it there?
Yes.
Is it in the same or substantially similar condition as when you placed it there?
Yes.
Did you also remove anything from Officer Raynor's person?
His body camera
Where was he wearing his body camera?
on the center of his shirt right here.
So it was attached to the center of his uniform?
Yes, sir.
Is that a typical spot for officers? to wear
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me finish asking that again. Is that a typical spot where officers wear their body cam?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you end up giving that to another officer from your agency?
Yes.
After the medical personnel arrived, after you collected the duty belt, after you had taken Officer Raynor's body cam, what did you do next?
I deployed my canine partner in the yard to the west to attempt to locate any possible evidence.
So you deployed your canine
Yes, sir.
in an attempt to locate any witnesses, suspects, that type of thing?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any luck when you deployed the canine?
Yes, sir.
And after that night, did you have any further involvement in the case in terms of interviewing witnesses, collecting evidence, or locating Othal Wallace?
No, sir.
May I have one moment, Your Honor? Sir? Thank you, sir. I'll tender the witness, Your Honor. Defense, do you need the photographs? Yes, please.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
So you don't have any specific testimony about the reason for contact with Mr. Wallace at the review.
No, sir.
And we've heard a lot of discussion about this stolen vehicle that was bullied to all the agency members that evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay. To the extent that Mr. Raynor was going back and looking for the stolen vehicle, he would have been wrong that Mr. Wallace's vehicle was the stolen vehicle. Do you agree with that?
I'm not Officer Raynor. I wasn't there when he was making contact with anybody.
Othal Wallace's vehicle that he was encountered in was not the vehicle that was subject to be on the lookout.
Later determined, yes.
So at the moment in time, if Raynor was following up on that, he would have been incorrect that Mr. Wallace's vehicle was the Bolo vehicle.
Sir, I wasn't there with Officer Raynor to determine exactly how the vehicle looked, besides the color and make.
Well, I don't understand how two things can be true. It either is the vehicle or it isn't the vehicle. So was Mr. Wallace's vehicle the Bolo vehicle?
No, sir.
In fact, you participated in some contact with that vehicle that night, correct?
Later that night, yes, sir.
And if it's a stolen vehicle, that's what we would call a high-risk vehicle.
Yes.
And that is different than, that's treated differently than, say, an officer just going up and conducting a consensual encounter, right?
Yes.
When we're dealing with a consensual encounter, that's by its name one that the citizen can terminate an encounter.
I don't object to asking the officer about a legal definition of legal conclusion.
The way that you approach a high-risk vehicle, like a stolen vehicle, would be with guns drawn.
A confirmed stolen vehicle, yes, sir.
Okay. It would be with multiple officers.
For a stolen vehicle, yes, sir.
It would also include, if possible, some radio dispatch informing dispatch and all units about the activity that was about to occur.
Yes.
If in one of the things that you're always conscious about when you're a law enforcement officer is obviously your own officer safety, right?
Yes, sir.
Other officer safety as well, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that approaching a high-risk vehicle without informing any of the fellow dispatch or any of the fellow officers would not be the best practice.
It would not.
Okay. If you had a suspicion that a vehicle that you were about to approach would be a high-risk vehicle, the best practice would be to inform dispatch about your attempted contact.
If feasible, yes, sir.
Okay. And have you watched the video of this encounter in this case?
Only what's on the news.
And you've driven on Kingston Avenue in connection with your involvement in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that the vantage point that one would have from Kingston Avenue does not allow you to see behind into the parking lot where the shooting occurred?
Correct.
Okay. You didn't write a report in this case?
No, sir.
Did you take the pictures of the duty belt?
No, sir.
Who took the pictures of the duty belt?
I do not recall, sir.
I'm going to show you this. Are those photographs consistent with your recollection of the duty belt as it appeared on the night of June 23rd?
It is.
Would you agree with me that there's not a clear depiction of the taser in there?
Correct.
So we don't have any photographic evidence of the taser that was engaged, allowing the officer to remove the taser.
From the photographs now.
And since you didn't write a report, you don't have any contemporaneous observation that you would have put in a report about the status of the taser, correct?
Correct.
And the existence of the duty belt, as in these pictures, offers nothing in terms of dispelling any suspicion that Raynor perhaps went for his duty belt.
Objection, speculation.
If you can answer the question, you can answer the question. I'll overrule it for now.
Okay, can you ask it one more time?
Sure. I mean, the photograph isn't going to tell you whether or not Jason Raynor went for his duty belt.
Judge, that item is not in evidence yet. That's not shown to the jury. I understand, Judge. I just don't want the jury seeing an item that's not in evidence.
I mean, we've stipulated these come in.
Sorry. Positive exhibit.
So the photographs of how this duty belt exists don't offer anything as to whether Jason Raynor went for his duty belt.
Correct.
You removed the body-worn camera, the actual camera that's affixed,
Yes, sir.
and just like everything in law enforcement, there's policies that govern your use of a body worn camera.
Yes.
A general policy would be that it's engaged when practical when you're dealing with members of the public.
Correct.
And the idea is when you press your body worn camera, it actually goes back 30 seconds, right?
Correct.
So the policy is to leave that particular function enabled.
Correct.
And that's because you might want to capture and present later on what the officer observing that results in him engaging his camera, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with any combination of button pressing or function that would enable a body worn camera to not include the 30-second look back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is that?
Sleep mode.
Okay. And what are you familiar with a policy that allows officers to put their body worn camera in sleep mode?
Not exact definition, no.
Okay. What, just to the best of your understanding, what would that policy be?
That we have to keep it on and ready at all times.
Okay. And so sleep mode would be, I have to use the bathroom or something like that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And are you familiar with whether Jason Raynor's 30-second look back was disabled on the night of June 23rd, 2021?
Sir, I have no idea on that.
No further questions.
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Officer, you said, so when you're talking about stolen vehicles with the defense, you said a confirmed stolen vehicle. Remember that conversation?
Yes, sir.
How would you confirm a vehicle is stolen?
Either by the VIN, by the windshield, or the tag on the rear of the vehicle.
Do you have to actually get a good look at the tag or at the VIN of that vehicle to actually check it off and make sure it is in fact be on the lookout vehicle or stolen vehicle?
Correct.
Until then, you don't go in with guns drawn, do you?
No, sir.
Everyone know I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackson, you talked before about your participation in the contact with the actual bullet vehicle that you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that response included several law enforcement officers?
Yes.
Beyond the scope of the direct.
Nothing for your honor, I'm sorry.
From the state, he can be excused. Completely excused.
That's your honor.
Take filing break. All rise and jury.
Yes. We can put her on the stand.
All rise and jury.
Ariel Sizemore. Sizemore. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. If you'd please speak into that microphone so everybody can hear. Would you please introduce yourself to the folks in the courtroom?
My name is Ariel Sizemore.
And where are you employed, Ms. Sizemore?
I work with the Daytona Beach Police Department.
In what capacity?
I'm a full-time patrol officer. Yes.
Working patrol?
Yes, sir.
When did you start?
In 2019.
Did you work for any prior law enforcement agencies?
No, sir.
Were you working on June 23rd, 2021 when Officer Raynor was shot?
I was.
What was your shift?
We work Charlie shift, Charlie East.
Okay.
And I work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Okay. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Did you know Officer Raynor?
I did.
And how did you know? Describe that for us.
Through work, and then just a coworker friendship.
Were y'all on the same shift?
Yes, sir.
And were you working the same area basically?
So I worked on A1A, and he worked on Ridgewood.
Okay, so A1A's east, is that correct?
Yes, we're separated by the river.
The river, which would be the intercoastal waterway, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Are all these zones within the city limits of Daytona Beach?
Yes, sir.
What's the proximity? How close your area, Officer Raynor?
Pretty much directly across the bridge.
The bridge spanning the intercoastal?
Yeah, the International Speedway Bridge.
Do you typically, are you restricted only to your zone, or can you move in that zone?
You're free to move and roam, but if a call for service comes out in your zone, you're primarily responsible for it.
You're expected to be there to take care of it.
Yes, sir.
But you are allowed to leave that zone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. To assist other officers?
Yes, sir. Either on either side of the river.
And also to do patrol?
Yes.
Did you see Officer Raynor the night before he was shot, that night? Did you see him?
I did.
Where did you see him?
We met at the beachside precinct to have a short briefing, and we talked just for a little bit.
Do you remember what y'all talked about?
Just in passing, he had just came back from a vacation, so.
Okay. Nothing that you can recall?
No.
Let's talk a little bit about a bolo or be on the lookout. Do you recall receiving a bolo for a stolen vehicle that evening?
I do.
A gray Honda?
Yes.
Was this bolo, did it indicate whether or not the car had been cited in the area?
I don't recall that exactly. I do recall the bolo itself, but I don't recall the exact details.
Okay. Are bolos useful for you?
They are.
How so?
They alert us to different people or vehicles that could be involved in any type of crimes, missing people, things like that. It helps us do our job.
So it's part of your job to review those bolos when they come in?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about as you're patrolling. At some time during the evening of June 23rd, 2021, did you hear something that caused you concern involving Officer Raynor?
I did.
What was it?
I heard him begin to say his call sign over the radio, and before he could finish, it cut off.
Now, if an officer's away from the car, like if you get out of your car to talk to someone, do you have the ability to use the radio?
Yes, so we have portable radios that are carried on our belt, and then it has a hand mic up on our shoulder so that we can speak to other officers.
So the hand mic, how do you engage it? How do you transmit?
So if I were to key up, which is what it's called when we press the button, I would press and hold the button on the side, say whatever I needed, and then let go.
So you have to use your hand and press it and hold it down in order to transmit. Is that right?
Yes.
What happens if you push it and then you don't hold it down? Will you be able to transmit?
Normally you won't come across, it might just come across as a click.
So you knew it was him because of his call sign and what his number was?
Yes, sir.
So after you heard him call into headquarters, what happened next? Do you remember?
I remember it caught my attention because it sounded like he was rushed, that he didn't fully finish what a normal call out would be for us, which is where we would say our call sign, such as 3 Charlie 55 2 Central. He never finished the 2 Central part, which is how we let people on the radio know who we're addressing. So he never got to that part, which to me indicated that he either got cut off or he had to do something at that immediate time that took him away from being able to key up.
So it's cause for concern when somebody keys up, but then they're called back and they don't respond, but that's leading. So did Officer Raynor respond? Did anybody try to reach him after he had this interrupted call?
The dispatcher keyed up for him multiple times. I believe our supervisor keyed up for him multiple times. And during that period is when all of us started heading to him because it is very unusual to not answer your radio.
Are you supposed to answer the call when dispatch or your fellow officers call you?
Yes.
And that didn't happen?
It did not happen.
So, you hear a call, you hear Officer Raynor starting to make the call that you believe somehow got interrupted, and then he won't call back, he won't answer. So what did you do at that point?
I immediately started heading to the location that our sergeant notified that he was at. There was some checking of some technology which let us know where he was. They put that out over the radio, and we all went straight there.
So you didn't know exactly where Officer Raynor was when he started the call and got interrupted?
No, sir, I didn't know.
So, do you remember where you were directed to go to see about Jason Raynor, Officer Jason?
Yes, I believe the exact address was 133 Kingston, but to us it just said the rear parking lot of, the second building on Kingston. So.
Are you familiar with that particular area?
I am.
Tell me about that. Have you responded there before?
I have.
For what purposes? What types of calls?
I've responded for drug overdoses, domestic disturbances, narcotics complaints, which is where citizens or residents of the area call in regarding narcotics activity going on. And specifically at that time, we had been responding to multiple weapons complaints, which can range from a resident or a citizen calling in about citing or seeing someone with a firearm to an actual shooting, which we had responded to all of those in that location recently.
So, did you and your fellow officers consider this area a high crime area?
Yes.
Would you get multiple calls per shift?
Especially in the time leading up to this incident. I don't know if it was just a chance. But I don't know if there were new residents there, but a lot of the residents there actually were people that were calling us to have us come check out the criminal activity that was going on.
As a law enforcement officer, what would you say is, what's your overarching primary duty and responsibility?
To protect life and then subsequently property.
And why go into a high crime area? What are you trying to do?
To try to make it not a high crime area, to make it a safer place for the residents in the area, especially when the residents of that area are the ones calling in telling us, hey, there's a problem here, we want police presence, we want this to not be a problem anymore.
And would you consider that to be an important part of your duties and responsibilities as a police officer?
Yes.
Also, would you consider it good police practice to engage in this type of activity with the community?
Yes, we want people to feel safe in their neighborhood.
So did you go to the Kingston location that night after you had heard that Officer Raynor wasn't responding?
I did.
And before you got there, did you have any idea what you were going to find?
There were some officers who arrived on scene prior to I arrived, and they did let us know that we had an officer down.
Did you see Officer Jason Raynor there?
I did.
Where was he?
In the rear parking lot.
Did you try to help him in any way?
I did. The paramedics were struggling to get him onto the stretcher because he couldn't assist. And because they were struggling, I jumped in and used his belt and his shirt to help lift him onto the stretcher.
Were you able to see the gun belt?
I could.
Was it intact?
It was.
Gun in the holster and secure?
It was.
Did you come into contact with any residents of it?
In passing, I did, yes.
Did you happen to see a female with a bat?
I did.
Talk about that for a second. What was going on?
So when I arrived to the rear of the parking lot, obviously there was a lot of activity going on, people walking everywhere, both police and residents trying to all figure out what happened. And while I was in the rear parking lot, I noticed there's two apartment buildings right next door to each other, and there's parking lots and grassy areas behind both. While I was in the parking lot where this incident happened, I looked over, and there was a female who I found out was a resident of the next apartment complex. She was walking around the rear grassy area of the next parking lot, which is, it'd be like the distance from here to the back of the room. And she was walking around with a bat in her hand. And I asked her, I said, ma'am, what are you doing? You can't be out here. She said, well, I'm trying to find whoever did that or something similar to those.
Did you tell her?
I did tell her it'd be best for her to go inside because with all the commotion, you know, if someone sees a female swinging a bat around in the grass, I don't want anything to happen to her or anything like that.
Were you aware if somebody helped a resident or somebody in the area with providing like a shirt or a towel?
Yes. So as I was leaving, there was a large group of residents on the stairwell, and they were saying, what happened? Is the officer okay? Is he okay? How's he doing? And I just told them, I said, he's injured. If you guys don't have any involvement, I need you to go inside. And one of the males was just saying, how's that officer? I'm the one who gave my t-shirt to stop the bleeding on his head.
At some point, did you take possession of Officer Raynor's body on camera?
I did.
Summer is now.
Remember who you got it from?
Sergeant Sirs.
A Daytona Beach police officer last summer. Accused of killing a Daytona Beach police officer last summer is now set to go on trial in April.
Would you never step out and do this?
Accused of killing is now set to go on trial in April of next year. Othal Wallace is in court.
It won't happen again.
Sorry for the interruption. Sergeant Sears?
Sirs, yes.
Sirs. Was that your supervisor that night?
Yes.
And Jason's supervisor as well?
Yes.
What'd you do with that body worn camera?
I kept it in my hand. I walked to my car. I went straight to the beachside precinct where we operated as beachside officers. I walked upstairs to our Axon docking room, which is basically just a little closet that has docking stations, kind of how you would dock an iPhone or an Android, whatever phone you have, plugging it up. There's stations. I took his camera, I connected it to one of the stations, which then allowed the camera to both be charged and upload any video, audio, anything that's on that camera to evidence.com, which is what stores all of our videos.
And you were doing that to try and see if the body cam had captured what happened?
Yeah, we didn't know if there would even be anything on it, so we needed to see.
Did you, at that point, when you docked it, did you see the content of the video?
Once it was uploaded, the sergeant logged on to the website where they can access it, and that's when they sent out the video.
So that's Sergeant Sears?
Yes, sir. Sirs.
And you took the body-worn camera directly from the scene to the beachside headquarters?
Yes, I did not stop.
And docked it immediately?
Yes.
You have just, yes. Your Honor, I believe the state or the defense doesn't have an objection. This has been marked as states D for identification purposes. We would ask to be entered, I think it might be number 4. Number 4 is the body-worn camera of Jason Raynor.
No objection. No objection. Accept.
Just one more moment. I'll tend to the witness, Judge.
Okay. Cross-examination.
Good morning.
So you knew Deputy, Officer Raynor through the Daytona Beach Police Department?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And you were with him at the briefing that evening?
Yeah, very briefly.
Did you talk to him about?
Just in passing about his vacation.
You never said anything about going to look for a single tenant solar property?
We didn't speak about anything work-related at that time.
But you never said anything about that, did you?
No.
All right, and then you went back to your zone and he took off to his zone, which would have been across the bridge, across the river?
Yes.
And you said that 133 Kingston Ave is a dangerous area?
It can be. It was identified as a high-crime area.
And you said that you had overdoses there, right?
Yes.
And that had to do with Mr. Wallace, right?
I am not familiar with him at all.
So you had domestic violence incidents there, correct?
Yes.
And they had to do with Mr. Wallace, too?
Not to my knowledge that I personally responded to.
You had narcotics incidents there, didn't you?
Yes.
And they had to do with Mr. Wallace, too?
Not that I responded to.
You had weapons incidents there, correct?
Yes.
And they had to do with Mr. Wallace?
Not that I responded to.
You had shootings there as well?
Yes.
And that had to do with Mr. Wallace?
not that I responded to.
Now, that's a high crime area. Wouldn't you, if you were going into that high crime area and you were going to make contact with a possible stolen vehicle, would you radio in to let people know what you were doing?
Every person is different. It's general practice too, but again, there's certain situations where it might not be something that's feasible or the best option at that time.
But it's reasonable, and it should, you think it's reasonable for somebody to do that once they go into a high crime area and they're going to make contact with a possible stolen vehicle.
Every officer is different. I can't speak for every person.
Is it reasonable for you to do that?
Depending on the situation. Every situation we respond to is completely different.
And you stated that, well, let me back up. You said that you knew Officer Raynor. What kind of officer was he?
He was very knowledgeable. He was the person on the shift that if you had questions about traffic citations, traffic crashes, narcotics, anything like that, he was just kind of a general expert when it came to statutes, ordinances, things like that.
You'd also, would you classify him as being a very proactive officer?
He was very oriented in responding to complaints that we got, yes.
You say he's very proactive then?
Objection as to the answer.
Was he very proactive?
If you want to use the word proactive, he did more than what was required of him, yes.
And then, what you did is you took the axon and then took it to the precinct and then had it down.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any knowledge as to what Jason Raynor was doing behind 133 Kingston Ave?
We had been told by our superiors.
Do you have any knowledge, personal knowledge, of why he was there?
We had been told by our superiors to be in that area due to the high crime that had been occurring. So that's more than likely why he was there, but I'm not in his head. I don't know what he was thinking, what he saw, what he was doing, but we had been told to be in that area as a presence.
That was not his zone, right?
He was 77, so he was a roaming car. He technically was not assigned to any specific area. He could go pretty much anywhere that he wanted to.
So by him going to that high crime area and looking around, that would be him being proactive and trying to stop crime.
In responding to the complaints we received, yes.
Hang on 1 second. Officer Sizemore, were you aware of any specific dispatch for Jason Raynor to go to that area?
To my knowledge, I don't remember a specific call.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
No, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, can you ready to this meeting? It's 5 to noon, we'll take our lunch break at this time. I want to remind you not to discuss the case with anyone, not to do any research on your own, not to share information about the case located on one. That is just one night. I will return at 1:30. All rise and adjourn. Well, the truth is, I'm going to have the citizen come over. The podium is the podium is your device interrupted the proceedings. I need to know what device it is and why is it.
clap, and it went off because I was trying to let the young lady pass me, and my leg hit the play button.
Are you a member of the media?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what's the organization again?
I'm representing CLAP here today.
Okay, I have a specific order. Who's allowed in the courtroom as members of the media with equipment. I allowed one camera and one still photograph photographer, which I think is a news journal. And there's a full agreement with the cameras. Why is your computer needed to be connected to these things inside the courtroom? Why can't it connect outside of the courtroom?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question. Why can't it connect outside the courtroom?
Yeah, why do you have to have it in the courtroom on?
Because I am streaming live from the camera that's in the back of the room.
Okay, the order specifically says that streaming is done from outside of the courtroom, not from within the courtroom. So you have to tap into their system. They have a full agreement. I don't know who's in charge. They'll tell you where you can connect outside of the courtroom to the live stream, whatever they're providing. And it's also been provided live stream on YouTube. So you have access to both of those things. I do not want your equipment in the courtroom. Okay?
That's fine.
Thank you.
You're
We'll
welcome.
be recessed until 1:30. Oh, can you give her a copy of the order, please?
Excuse me, Judge. I have a question regarding that media link. Where can we find that media link published during?
Circuit7.org, under judges, look for my name, Raul Zambrano, and it says live stream.
Thank you so much.
Providing this